The coffee cup slipped from Nathan Brooks' hand, crashing to the marble floor of LAX terminal as his world came to a complete stop. There, just 30 feet away near Gate 42, stood the woman who had haunted his dreams for 3 years. But it wasn't just Destiny Williams that made his heart skip every beat in his chest. It was the 3 identical toddlers clinging to her designer jeans, each one bearing his unmistakable green eyes and the same stubborn cowlick that had plagued him since childhood. Nathan's legs felt like concrete as he watched his ex-wife adjust the tiny backpack on one child while another tugged at her flowing purple blouse. The third toddler, a little girl with perfect spiral curls, pointed excitedly at an airplane through the massive windows. All 3 children shared the same honey-toned skin that perfectly blended Destiny's rich chocolate complexion with his own pale features. His mouth went dry as the devastating realization crashed over him like a tidal wave. These were his children. His children that he never knew existed. The bustling airport around him faded into white noise as Nathan stared at the family he should have been part of. Destiny looked even more beautiful than he remembered, her natural hair styled in an elegant twist that framed her heart-shaped face. She wore confidence like expensive perfume, commanding attention without trying. The successful businesswoman she'd always dreamed of becoming was clearly evident in her posture and the way she handled 3 active toddlers with practiced ease. Nathan's hands trembled as he pulled out his phone, his fingers hovering over Destiny's number that he'd never been able to delete. 3 years of wondering what happened to her, 3 years of regretting the day she walked out of their Beverly Hills mansion, and now this earth-shattering discovery that changed everything. The children looked to be about 2.5 years old, which meant Destiny was pregnant when she left him. She was carrying his babies when she packed her bags and disappeared from his life forever. The timeline made perfect sense now, and the guilt that crashed over him was suffocating. One of the little boys dropped his stuffed elephant, and Nathan watched in amazement as the child's face scrunched up in the exact same expression Nathan made when frustrated. The resemblance was so striking that several passengers walking by did double takes between Nathan and the children. Destiny bent down to comfort the crying toddler, her voice soft and melodic as she whispered reassurances. Nathan remembered that voice, how it used to calm his stressed nerves after brutal board meetings. How it used to whisper, "I love you," in the dark corners of their king-sized bed. How it had begged him to pay attention to their marriage before it was too late. The departure board above showed that Destiny's flight to Atlanta was boarding in 20 minutes. Nathan realized with growing panic that he was about to lose them again. His feet finally unstuck from the polished floor as he began walking toward them, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it over the airport announcements. With each step more details became clear. The little girl was wearing a tiny pink dress with white flowers, while both boys sported matching blue overalls with dinosaur patches. They all had small rolling suitcases that Destiny had obviously chosen with care, each decorated with different cartoon characters. This was clearly a well-planned trip, not some random vacation. Nathan stopped just 10 feet away, close enough to hear one of the boys call Destiny Mama, in a sweet voice that made Nathan's chest tight with emotion. Close enough to see the delicate gold bracelet on Destiny's wrist that he'd given her for their first anniversary. Close enough to notice that she still wore her hair the way he'd always loved it. But it was also close enough for Destiny to sense his presence. She looked up from adjusting her daughter's tiny sneakers, and their eyes met across the busy terminal. The shock on her beautiful face was immediate and devastating. Her full lips parted in surprise, and Nathan saw her grip tighten protectively on the children beside her. The moment stretched between them like a bridge neither was sure they wanted to cross. 3 years of silence, 3 years of questions, and 3 years of heartbreak all condensed into this single life-changing moment in a crowded airport terminal. Nathan opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. How do you begin a conversation with the woman you let slip away, especially when you've just discovered she's been raising your children alone? How do you explain 3 years of absence when you didn't even know they existed? The children, oblivious to the tension between their parents, continued their excited chatter about the airplane they were about to board. Their innocent laughter filled the space between Nathan and Destiny, a sound that was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Destiny's expression shifted from shock to something harder, more guarded. Nathan could see the walls going up in real time, the same walls she tried to build during their marriage when he disappointed her one too many times. But this time, those walls weren't just protecting her heart. They were protecting 3 little hearts that looked exactly like his. The boarding announcement for Atlanta crackled over the intercom, and Nathan watched in horror as Destiny began gathering the children's belongings. She was going to leave again, and this time she was taking his children with her. Children who had no idea that their father was standing just a few feet away, finally understanding what he'd lost when he let pride and work consume his marriage. Nathan forced his feet to move forward, knowing this might be his only chance to right the greatest wrong of his life. As he approached the family he never knew he had, one question burned in his mind above all others: how could he have been so blind to what truly mattered? 3 years and 4 months earlier, Nathan Brooks had everything a man could want. At 32, his tech company was worth over $2 billion, his Beverly Hills mansion was featured in architectural magazines, and he was married to the most beautiful woman in California. But success had made him arrogant, and arrogance had made him careless with the most precious thing in his life. Destiny Williams had walked into his life like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. She was 26, fresh out of culinary school, and working as a private chef for wealthy families in Los Angeles. Nathan had hired her to cater a business dinner at his home, and the moment she smiled at him while serving her famous honey-glazed salmon, he knew his bachelor days were over. Their courtship was a whirlwind of expensive restaurants, weekend trips to Napa Valley, and long conversations that lasted until sunrise. Destiny challenged Nathan in ways no one else dared, calling him out when his ego got too big and celebrating his victories like they were her own. She brought warmth and laughter into his sterile, work-focused world. They married after 8 months of dating in a ceremony that made the society pages. Destiny looked like a queen in her flowing white gown, her natural hair adorned with tiny pearls that caught the light like stars. Nathan remembered thinking he was the luckiest man alive as she walked down the aisle toward him, her radiant smile making every business deal and late night seem worth it. For the first year their marriage was perfect. Nathan would come home to the smell of Destiny's incredible cooking and the sound of her humming while she worked in their gourmet kitchen. She'd massage his shoulders after stressful days and listen patiently while he vented about demanding clients and board meetings. In return he showered her with gifts, surprise vacations and all the attention she deserved. But success was a jealous mistress, and Nathan's company was growing faster than he could handle. Meetings started running later, business trips became longer, and the romantic dinners gave way to rushed conversations over takeout Chinese food. Destiny tried to be understanding at first, bringing him coffee during late-night conference calls and rearranging her own catering schedule to accommodate his needs. The problem started small. Nathan missing their monthly date nights because of urgent client emergencies. Forgetting their anniversary dinner because a potential merger required his immediate attention. Canceling their planned vacation to Hawaii when a competitor tried to steal his biggest account. Destiny's hurt was quiet at first, expressed in gentle suggestions that maybe they needed to find better balance. She'd remind him about the importance of their relationship, suggest they schedule time together like business appointments if that's what it took. Nathan would agree, promise to do better, and then break those promises the moment his phone rang with another crisis. The real damage came from Nathan's mother, Patricia Brooks, a cold woman who had never approved of her son marrying beneath their social class. Patricia made her feelings known through tiny cuts disguised as concern. Comments about Destiny's simple background during family dinners. Suggestions that maybe Nathan needed a wife who understood the demands of running a billion-dollar company. Snide remarks about how career women couldn't properly support their husbands. Nathan, consumed with work stress and family pressure, began to unconsciously echo his mother's sentiments. He started criticizing Destiny's catering business as a hobby rather than a real career. He'd make jokes about her clients being small-time compared to his corporate deals. When she excitedly told him about landing a contract to cater a celebrity wedding, he barely looked up from his laptop. The distance between them grew like a cancer. Nathan would work until midnight, then fall into bed too exhausted to notice that Destiny had stopped reaching for him. Their conversations became purely functional discussions about schedules, bills, and household management. The laughter died first, then the intimacy, and finally the hope. Destiny tried everything to save their marriage. She planned surprise romantic evenings that Nathan would miss due to unavoidable conference calls. She signed them up for couples counseling, which Nathan attended twice before claiming he was too busy to continue. She even temporarily closed her catering business to focus on being the supportive wife his mother insisted he needed. Nothing worked. Nathan was drowning in his own success, too proud to admit he was failing at the most important job of his life. When Destiny suggested they start a family, thinking maybe a baby would bring them closer together, Nathan's response was devastating. He told her they weren't ready, that his company needed his full attention, that children would be too much stress on their already strained relationship. What Nathan didn't know was that Destiny was already pregnant. She had planned to surprise him with the news over a romantic dinner, complete with baby shoes hidden in a gift box. But his rejection of the idea of children felt like a rejection of her, of their future, of everything she'd hoped their marriage could become. The final fight came on a rainy Tuesday evening when Nathan missed their third anniversary dinner because of a board meeting. Destiny sat alone at their favorite restaurant for 2 hours, fielding pitying looks from the waitstaff while her untouched meal grew cold. When Nathan finally came home at 11 p.m., talking loudly on his phone about quarterly projections, something inside Destiny finally broke. She waited until he hung up, then quietly asked if he even remembered what day it was. The blank look on Nathan's face told her everything she needed to know. When he realized his mistake and tried to apologize with promises and expensive jewelry, Destiny just shook her head sadly. "I feel like I'm married to a ghost," she whispered, tears streaming down her beautiful face. "You're here but you're not really here. I love you, Nathan, but I can't keep fighting for a marriage when I'm the only one fighting." Nathan, exhausted and defensive, said the words that would haunt him for years. "Maybe you're right. Maybe we're just not compatible anymore. Maybe this marriage was a mistake." The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan saw the exact moment Destiny's heart broke, watched the last bit of hope die in her dark eyes. She nodded slowly as if she'd been expecting this moment for months. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll pack my things in the morning." Nathan expected her to fight, to argue, to give him one more chance to make things right. Instead, she simply walked upstairs to their bedroom and closed the door. The next morning, he left early for a breakfast meeting, assuming they'd talk when he got home and work things out like they always did. But when Nathan returned that evening, Destiny was gone. Her clothes, her pictures, her cooking supplies, everything that made their house a home had vanished. She left behind only her wedding ring on the kitchen counter and a note that said, "Thank you for the beautiful memories. I hope you find what makes you truly happy." Nathan told himself he was relieved. No more guilt about missed dinners, no more pressure to be a perfect husband when he had a company to run. He threw himself even deeper into work, acquiring 3 smaller companies and expanding internationally. His success became legendary in business circles, but his personal life remained empty. For 3 years, Nathan convinced himself he'd made the right choice. He dated occasionally beautiful women who understood that his career came first and didn't expect more than expensive dinners and charity galas. None of them challenged him like Destiny had. None of them made him want to be better. It wasn't until this moment in the airport, staring at the children who shared his eyes and Destiny's smile, that Nathan realized what his success had really cost him. He hadn't just lost a wife. He'd lost a family, a future, and the only woman who had ever loved him enough to try to save him from himself. Now, watching Destiny gather their children's belongings as the boarding announcement echoed through the terminal, Nathan finally understood the true price of his pride. And he wasn't sure if any amount of money in the world could buy back what he'd thrown away. Nathan's legs felt like lead as he approached the woman who had once been his everything. Each step closer to Destiny and the children made his heart pound harder, until he could hear nothing but the rushing of blood in his ears. The bustling airport faded around them as he stopped just 5 feet away, close enough to see the mix of shock and pain flickering across Destiny's beautiful face. "Hello, Destiny," Nathan managed, his voice barely above a whisper. She straightened slowly, her protective instincts immediately kicking in as she positioned herself between Nathan and the 3 toddlers. The children, sensing the sudden tension, quieted their excited chatter and moved closer to their mother's legs. "Nathan." Her voice was steady, but he could see her hands trembling slightly as she smoothed down her daughter's curls. "What are you doing here?" "Business trip to New York," he replied automatically, then realized how ridiculous that sounded given the circumstances. Here they were, facing each other for the first time in 3 years, and he was talking about business. "Destiny, are they?" He couldn't finish the question, but his eyes said everything. They moved from one child to the next, taking in every familiar feature, every resemblance that couldn't be denied. The little girl had his stubborn chin and Destiny's graceful movements. One of the boys had inherited his exact nose and Destiny's expressive eyebrows. The other boy shared his green eyes and the same way of tilting his head when curious. "Yes," Destiny said quietly, her voice carrying 3 years of pain and exhaustion. "They're yours." The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. He stumbled backwards slightly, running his hands through his hair in the gesture Destiny knew meant he was overwhelmed. One of the boys tugged on Destiny's pants and pointed to Nathan with wide, curious eyes. "Mama, who's that man?" the little boy asked in a sweet voice that made Nathan's chest ache. Destiny looked down at her son, then back at Nathan, her internal struggle visible on her face. Nathan held his breath, waiting to see how she would handle this impossible moment. This is "This is Nathan," she said carefully. "An old friend of Mama's." Nathan felt the words like a knife to his heart. An old friend. Not their father, not someone important, just an old friend. But he understood why Destiny was protecting them. These children didn't know him, had never seen him before. To them, he was just a stranger in an expensive suit who was making their mother upset. "Destiny, we need to talk," Nathan said urgently, glancing at the departure board. "Your flight boards in 15 minutes. "There's nothing to talk about," she replied, but her voice lacked conviction. "We're visiting my sister in Atlanta for 2 weeks. The kids haven't seen their aunt since Christmas." 2 weeks, Nathan repeated, his mind racing. "And then what? You just disappear again?" Fire flashed in Destiny's dark eyes. "Disappear? I didn't disappear, Nathan. I left. There's a difference. You made it very clear that you didn't want a family, remember? I didn't know you were pregnant." The words came out louder than Nathan intended, causing several nearby passengers to glance their way. He lowered his voice, aware that the children were watching this exchange with growing confusion. "Why didn't you tell me?" Destiny's laugh was bitter and heartbreaking. "Tell you what? That I was carrying the children of a man who said our marriage was a mistake? That I was pregnant by someone who couldn't even remember our anniversary? That I was going to have babies with a man who told me kids would be too stressful for his precious company?" Each word was a direct hit to Nathan's heart, reminding him of the cruel things he'd said during their final fight. He remembered that night now, remembered the look of devastation on Destiny's face when he'd suggested their marriage was wrong. What he hadn't known was that she was carrying his children while he was destroying their relationship. "I was scared," Destiny continued, her voice breaking slightly. "I was pregnant, alone and heartbroken. The last thing you said to me was that maybe our marriage was a mistake. How exactly was I supposed to tell you about the babies after that?" The little girl, sensing her mother's distress, wrapped her tiny arms around Destiny's leg and patted her comfortingly. "Don't cry, Mama," she whispered in a voice so sweet it made Nathan's eyes sting with unshed tears. Destiny bent down and scooped up her daughter, holding her close while the 2 boys pressed against her sides. The image of this strong, beautiful woman comforting their children while dealing with the shock of seeing him again made Nathan feel smaller than he'd ever felt in his life. "What are their names?" Nathan asked softly, his voice thick with emotion. Destiny hesitated for a moment, then sighed. "Caleb, Cameron and Chloe. They're 2.5. Nathan's breath caught. She'd given them beautiful names, names that sounded perfect together. He wondered if she'd thought of him when choosing them, wondered if she'd imagined him being there to hold them when they were born. "Chloe is the only girl," Destiny continued, adjusting the little one in her arms. "Caleb is the oldest by 3 minutes and Cameron is the baby, though he's determined to keep up with his brothers." The boarding announcement for their flight crackled over the intercom again, and Nathan saw panic flash across Destiny's face. She was torn between running away and staying to deal with this impossible situation. "Please don't get on that plane," Nathan said desperately. "Please, Destiny. We need to figure this out. I need to figure this out. These are my children too." "Your children?" The fire was back in her voice. "Where have you been for 2.5 years, Nathan? Where were you when I was sick with morning sickness that lasted all day? Where were you when I was in labor for 14 hours, scared and alone? Where were you when they took their first steps, said their first words, when they were sick with fevers and I stayed up all night worried they might not be okay?" Nathan felt each question like a physical blow. He'd missed everything. Every milestone, every important moment, every chance to be the father these beautiful children deserved. While he was building his business empire, Destiny was building a family by herself. "I didn't know," he whispered, the words inadequate but all he had. "But would it have mattered?" Destiny asked, tears starting to fall down her cheeks. "If I had told you, would you have changed? Would you have put down your phone during dinner? Would you have remembered our anniversary? Would you have chosen us over another business meeting?" The questions hung in the air between them, and Nathan realized he didn't have good answers. The man he'd been 3 years ago might not have changed, even for his children. The realization was devastating. "I don't know," he admitted honestly. "But I want to find out. I want to try. Please, Destiny. Don't take them away from me again." Final boarding call for Flight 447 to Atlanta. The announcement boomed overhead. Destiny looked at the departure gate, then at Nathan, then down at the 3 little faces looking up at her with confusion and growing anxiety. The weight of the decision was visible on her shoulders. "I can't miss this flight," she said finally. "My sister is expecting us, and the kids have been looking forward to this trip for weeks." Nathan's heart sank, but Destiny wasn't finished. But, she continued slowly, I can give you my number. My real number this time. We can talk while I'm gone. Figure out what this means, what happens next. It wasn't what Nathan wanted, but it was more than he'd dared hope for when he'd seen her across the terminal. He pulled out his phone with trembling hands and typed in the number she recited. I'll call you tonight, he promised. After you've landed, after you've settled in. We'll figure this out, Destiny. I know I messed up before, but I want to do better. I want to be their father. Destiny studied his face for a long moment, searching for something he hoped she'd find. Finally, she nodded slightly. Come on, babies, she said to the children, gathering their carry-on bags. We need to get on the airplane now. As she started toward the gate, little Caleb turned back to look at Nathan with curious green eyes so much like his own. Bye, Mr. Nathan, the little boy said with a shy wave. Nathan's heart cracked wide open at the sound of his son's voice saying his name. Bye, Caleb, he managed to say. I'll see you soon, okay? He stood there watching until they disappeared down the jetway, his children's excited voices fading into the background noise of the airport. For the first time in 3 years, Nathan Brooks had something more important than business to think about. He had a family to win back. Nathan sat in his first-class seat on the flight back to Los Angeles, staring at his phone screen where Destiny's contact information glowed like a lifeline. The other passengers settled around him with their tablets and magazines, but Nathan couldn't focus on anything except the earth-shattering discovery that had turned his world upside down in the span of 20 minutes. He had children. 3 beautiful, perfect children who didn't know he existed. The flight attendant offered him champagne, but Nathan declined. He needed to think clearly, needed to process everything that had just happened. His mind kept replaying the moment he'd first seen them at the gate, the way little Chloe had pointed at the airplanes with wonder, how Caleb had dropped his stuffed elephant and made that familiar frustrated expression, the way Cameron had stayed close to Destiny's side like a tiny protector. His children. The words felt foreign and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Nathan pulled out his laptop and started doing what he did best when overwhelmed. He researched. Within an hour, he'd found Destiny's catering company online, and what he discovered made him feel even smaller than he already did. Sweet Destiny Catering wasn't the small hobby business he'd dismissed during their marriage. It was a thriving company with locations in 3 cities, specializing in high-end events and celebrity weddings. The website showcased beautiful photos of elaborate wedding cakes, elegant corporate events, and intimate family celebrations. Destiny looked radiant in the pictures, her smile genuine as she worked alongside her team. Nathan read testimonial after testimonial from satisfied clients praising not just the food, but Destiny's professionalism, creativity, and warm personality. She'd built something amazing while he'd been consumed with his own success. She'd created the career she'd always dreamed of while raising their children alone. The weight of his absence felt crushing. Nathan scrolled through the company's social media pages, hungry for any glimpse of his children. He found them in a Mother's Day post from 6 months ago, 3 toddlers in matching yellow outfits, helping their mama frost cupcakes in a professional kitchen. The caption read, "My best assistants and the loves of my life. Everything I do is for them." The comment section was filled with heart emojis and supportive messages from what appeared to be a large community of friends and clients who adored Destiny and the children. Nathan realized with a pang that his kids had an entire life, an entire world that he knew nothing about. When the plane landed in Los Angeles, Nathan drove straight home to his empty mansion in Beverly Hills. The house felt even more sterile and cold than usual as he walked through rooms that had once echoed with Destiny's laughter. He found himself in the kitchen where she used to cook, running his fingers along the marble countertops where she'd once prepared meals with love and creativity. At exactly 8 p.m., calculating that Destiny would have landed and gotten the children settled, Nathan dialed her number. His hands were shaking as he waited for her to answer. "Hello, Nathan." Her voice was tired but not unfriendly. "Hi. How was the flight? Are the kids okay?" "They're fine. Excited to see their Aunt Rachel. They're already asleep. Traveling wears them out." There was a pause, then Destiny sighed. "We need to talk about this situation." "Yes, we do." Nathan took a deep breath. "Destiny, I want to know everything. I want to know about their birth, their first words, what they like to eat, what makes them laugh. I want to know about you too, how you managed all of this alone." "It wasn't easy," Destiny admitted, and Nathan could hear the exhaustion of 2.5 years in her voice. "The pregnancy was difficult. I had severe morning sickness for 6 months, and carrying triplets meant I was on bed rest for the last 2 months. I had to close my catering business temporarily." Nathan closed his eyes, imagining Destiny alone and sick while he'd been completely oblivious to her situation. Who helped you? Who was there when they were born? My sister Rachel flew in from Atlanta. She stayed for 3 months after they were born. My friend Keiko from culinary school helped too. And gradually, I built a support network of other single mothers in the neighborhood. Destiny's voice was matter-of-fact, but Nathan could hear the underlying pain of having to create a family support system from scratch. Were you scared? Nathan asked quietly. Terrified, Destiny admitted. 3 babies, Nathan. Do you know what it's like to feed 3 newborns every 2 hours around the clock? To change 18 diapers a day? To wonder if you're doing everything wrong because you're so tired you can barely think straight. Nathan felt sick imagining Destiny going through all of that alone. I should have been there. Yes, you should have, she said simply. But you weren't, and I survived it. We survived it. I started the catering business back up when the kids turned 1, working from home at first, then expanding slowly. They're good kids, Nathan. Happy, healthy, smart. They don't know they're missing anything. But they are missing something, Nathan said urgently. They're missing their father. I'm missing them. Destiny, please tell me how I can fix this. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Nathan could hear the sound of what might have been Destiny moving around, maybe checking on the sleeping children. I don't know if it can be fixed, she said finally. They don't know you exist, Nathan. As far as they're concerned, it's always been just me and them and the people who love us. I can't just suddenly introduce a stranger and say, this is your daddy, without completely disrupting their world. Then what do you suggest? Nathan asked, though he dreaded the answer. I don't know, Destiny repeated, and for the first time she sounded vulnerable instead of strong. I've been thinking about this all day and I honestly don't know what's best for them. Part of me wants to protect them from the possibility of you disappearing again when things get complicated. Part of me knows they deserve to have their father in their lives if you're genuinely committed to being there. I am committed, Nathan said immediately. Destiny, seeing them today changed everything for me. I know I can't undo the past 3 years, but I want to be part of their future. I want to be the father they deserve. It's not that simple, Nathan. You can't just show up and expect to be instantly important to them. They're 2 years old, they don't understand complicated adult situations. And what happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when being a father interferes with your business schedule? What happens when they get sick in the middle of an important meeting, or when they have nightmares and need comfort at 3 in the morning? Every question was valid, and Nathan knew his track record didn't inspire confidence. But something fundamental had shifted in him when he'd seen his children's faces. The business success that had once felt like the most important thing in the world suddenly seemed meaningless compared to the chance to know his own kids. I'll prove it to you, Nathan said quietly. However long it takes, whatever I have to do, I'll prove that I can be the father they need and the partner you deserved. Partner? Destiny's voice was sharp. Nathan, this isn't about us. There is no us anymore. This is about 3 children who need stability and consistency, not parents who are trying to work out their own relationship issues. You're right, Nathan said quickly. I'm sorry. I want to co-parent well with you. I want us to be able to work together for their sake. Another long silence stretched between them. Nathan waited, barely breathing, for whatever decision would determine his future relationship with his children. I'll make you a deal, Destiny said finally. We're in Atlanta for 2 weeks. Use that time to think about what being a father really means. Not the fun parts like toys and trips to Disneyland, but the real parts. The sleepless nights, the tantrums, the constant worry, the way your entire life has to revolve around their needs. If you still want to be part of their lives when we get back, we'll start slow. Very slow. What does slow mean? Nathan asked. It means you meet them properly. Spend time with them in controlled situations. Prove that you can be consistent and reliable. If that goes well over several months, we can talk about a more formal custody arrangement. Nathan's heart leaped at the possibility, even as the timeline felt agonizingly long. I'll take it. Whatever terms you set, I'll take it. Nathan, Destiny's voice was gentle but firm. They're not business deals to be negotiated. They're little people with feelings and needs and routines that work for them. If you're going to be part of their lives, you have to be all in. Not when it's convenient, not when you feel like being a father, but every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I understand, Nathan said, though he was beginning to realize he probably didn't fully understand what he was committing to. I want to learn. I want to be what they need. Okay, Destiny said softly. Call me in a few days. We'll talk more then. After she hung up, Nathan sat in his empty mansion surrounded by awards and accolades that suddenly felt hollow. For the first time in his adult life, success wasn't measured by quarterly profits or market share. It was measured by 3 toddlers in Atlanta who didn't know their father loved them desperately and was determined to earn the right to show them. Nathan Brooks had built an empire, but now he had to learn how to build a family. And for the first time in his life, failure wasn't an option he could afford. 2 weeks felt like 2 years as Nathan waited for Destiny and the children to return from Atlanta. He spent the time doing something he'd never done before, researching how to be a father. He read parenting books, watched videos about child development, and even enrolled in an online course about effective co-parenting after divorce. But reading about fatherhood and experiencing it were 2 different things, as Nathan was about to discover. The night before Destiny's return flight, Nathan called her as they'd arranged. "How was your trip?" he asked, genuinely wanting to know about his children's experiences. "Wonderful," Destiny said, and Nathan could hear the happiness in her voice. "The kids love their Aunt Rachel and she spoils them rotten. Caleb learned to ride a tricycle, Cameron discovered he loves swimming, and Chloe has been inseparable from Rachel's golden retriever." Nathan smiled, storing away these precious details about his children's personalities. "They sound amazing." "They are," Destiny agreed. "Nathan, I've been thinking about our conversation. If you're serious about being part of their lives, I think we should start this weekend. But I have conditions." "Name them." "We meet at a neutral location first. Somewhere public where the kids feel safe but we can talk openly. And Nathan," her voice became serious, "if you change your mind at any point, if this becomes too complicated for your lifestyle, you tell me immediately. I won't have my children wondering why someone who claimed to love them suddenly disappeared." "That won't happen," Nathan said firmly. "Where do you want to meet?" "There's a family park in Santa Monica with a playground and cafe. Saturday at 10 a.m. Come prepared to spend the whole day, not just an hour between meetings." Nathan cleared his entire weekend, something that would have been unthinkable just a month ago. On Saturday morning, he stood outside the park entrance wearing jeans and a casual button-down shirt instead of his usual expensive suits. He'd agonized over what to wear, finally settling on clothes that looked approachable but not sloppy. His hands were sweating as he walked through the park gates, scanning the playground for Destiny's familiar figure. He found them at a picnic table near the swings, Destiny looking beautiful in a yellow sundress, her hair flowing freely around her shoulders. The 3 children were taking turns going down a small slide, their laughter carrying across the playground like music. Nathan's heart stopped as he watched them play. Caleb was clearly the leader, helping his younger siblings climb the ladder and cheering when they made it down the slide. Cameron was more cautious, taking his time and thinking through each step. Chloe was fearless, wanting to go faster and higher than her brothers thought was safe. "You came," Destiny said as Nathan approached their table. "I said I would," Nathan replied, unable to take his eyes off the children. "They're beautiful, Destiny. Really beautiful." Chloe noticed him first, stopping mid-climb to stare at the tall man talking to her mama. Nathan waved tentatively, and after a moment's hesitation, she waved back with a shy smile. "Kids," Destiny called gently. "Come here for a minute." The 3 toddlers ran over, Cameron hanging back slightly behind his siblings. They looked at Nathan with curious eyes, clearly remembering him from the airport but unsure why he was here. "Do you remember Mr. Nathan from the airport?" Destiny asked. "The tall man," Chloe said excitedly, pointing at Nathan. "That's right, baby girl," Destiny said, her voice carefully controlled. "Mr. Nathan is, well, he's your daddy." The silence that followed was deafening. Nathan held his breath, watching as 3 little faces processed this information with the seriousness only children possess. "Our daddy?" Caleb asked, his green eyes so much like Nathan's wide with confusion. "Yes," Destiny said softly. "Your daddy has been away for work, but now he wants to spend time with you and get to know you better." Nathan's heart broke at Destiny's gentle lie, protecting the children from the complicated truth while still allowing him this chance. "Do we have to call you daddy?" Cameron asked quietly, studying Nathan with careful eyes. "You can call me whatever feels comfortable," Nathan said, kneeling down to be at their eye level. "Mr. Nathan is fine, or just Nathan. We're going to take our time getting to know each other, okay?" Chloe, apparently decided that Nathan was acceptable, walked right up to him and patted his arm. "You're really tall," she observed matter-of-factly. Nathan laughed, the sound rusty from disuse. "You're really small," he replied, which made Chloe giggle. "Can you push me on the swings?" she asked with the directness only a 2-year-old possessed. Nathan looked at Destiny, who nodded encouragingly. I'd love to, he said. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of playground equipment, sandbox adventures and careful conversations. Nathan pushed all 3 children on swings, helped them navigate the monkey bars, and even got roped into a complicated game of tag that involved more running than he'd done in years. Caleb warmed up quickly, chattering about his favorite cartoons and showing Nathan how high he could climb. Cameron remained more reserved, watching Nathan carefully but gradually including him in conversations about dinosaurs and trucks. Chloe claimed Nathan as her personal jungle gym, climbing on his back and demanding piggyback rides around the playground. They like you, Destiny observed as they sat on a bench watching the children play on the slide. They're incredible, Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. How do you keep up with them? They have so much energy. Destiny smiled, the first genuinely warm smile she'd given him since the airport. Wait until you see them after lunch. This is them tired from the flight yesterday. As if on cue, Caleb ran over looking flushed and thirsty. Mama, I'm hungry, he announced, climbing into Destiny's lap. Lunchtime, Destiny declared, pulling out a well-organized diaper bag that seemed to contain everything 3 toddlers could possibly need. Nathan watched in amazement as Destiny efficiently distributed sandwiches, apple slices and juice boxes. Each child had their preferences accommodated. Caleb liked his sandwiches cut in triangles, Cameron preferred squares, and Chloe only ate the crusts if they were removed first. You're like a master chef and logistics coordinator rolled into one, Nathan said admiringly. You learn fast when you have triplets, Destiny replied. Everything has to be organized or chaos takes over. Can I help? Nathan asked, wanting to be useful. Destiny hesitated, then handed him a container of goldfish crackers. Chloe likes exactly 15 crackers, no more no less. Cameron likes his in a pile and Caleb likes his in a line. Nathan carefully counted out the crackers, following Destiny's specific instructions. When he handed them out correctly, all 3 children thanked him politely, and Nathan felt ridiculously proud of this small accomplishment. After lunch, the children's energy began to flag. Chloe climbed into Nathan's lap without invitation, her small body warm and trusting against his chest. The feeling of holding his daughter for the first time was overwhelming. She was so tiny, so perfect, so completely his. Tell me about them, Nathan said softly to Destiny as the children played quietly with toys she'd packed. Their personalities, what they're like at home. Destiny's expression softened as she watched their children. Caleb is the protector. He looks out for his siblings and always wants to help. He's going to be a natural leader. Cameron is the thinker. He observes everything and asks a million questions. He'll probably be an engineer or scientist. And Chloe, she smiled fondly, Chloe is pure joy. She finds wonder in everything and isn't afraid of anything. They're perfect, Nathan said, meaning it completely. They're not perfect, Destiny corrected gently. They have tantrums, they fight over toys, Caleb still has nightmares sometimes, and Cameron refuses to eat anything green. But they're good kids with big hearts. As the afternoon wore on, Nathan found himself relaxing in a way he hadn't in years. There were no phone calls to take, no emails to answer, no meetings to rush to. Just 3 beautiful children who were slowly accepting him into their world. When it was time to leave, Nathan felt a panic he'd never experienced before. What if this was it? What if Destiny decided he wasn't ready for more time with them? Can we see Mr. Nathan again? Chloe asked as Destiny packed up their things. Would you like that? Destiny asked all 3 children. The chorus of yes from his kids made Nathan's heart soar. Next Saturday, Destiny said to Nathan. Same time, same place. If you're still interested. I'll be here, Nathan promised, hugging each child goodbye. Their small arms around his neck felt like the most precious gift he'd ever received. As Nathan drove home that evening, he realized that for the first time in 3 years, he was genuinely happy. Not successful, not accomplished, not proud of a business deal. Happy. His children had given him something no amount of money could buy, a sense of purpose that had nothing to do with profit margins and everything to do with love. He was already counting the days until next Saturday. The second Saturday meeting went even better than the first. Nathan arrived at the park with a bag full of age-appropriate toys he'd researched extensively, including blocks for building, picture books for reading, and art supplies for creating. He'd also brought a small cooler with healthy snacks that he'd learned were the children's favorites. Destiny raised an eyebrow at his preparation but seemed pleased by his effort. You've been doing your homework, she observed. I want to get this right, Nathan admitted, watching as Caleb immediately zeroed in on the building blocks. Look, Cameron, Caleb called to his brother. We can build a castle. Nathan spent the morning on a blanket in the grass, helping his sons construct elaborate block towers while Chloe drew pictures with colorful markers. The little girl had appointed herself the family artist, creating masterpieces that she proudly presented to both Nathan and Destiny. "This is you, Mr. Nathan," Chloe announced, holding up a drawing that looked like a stick figure with exceptionally long legs. "You're really tall, so I made you really tall in the picture." "It's beautiful," Nathan said sincerely, accepting the artwork like it was a priceless painting. "Can I keep it?" Chloe beamed and nodded enthusiastically, already starting work on her next creation. As the weeks progressed, Nathan fell into a routine with his children that felt natural and right. Saturdays became sacred, blocked off completely in his calendar no matter what business crises arose. He learned that Caleb loved stories about brave knights and dragons, that Cameron was fascinated by how things worked and always wanted to take toys apart to see inside, and that Chloe had inherited Destiny's love of cooking and wanted to help prepare snacks. "Can we cook something together next time?" Chloe asked during their fourth Saturday meeting, tugging on Nathan's shirt with flour-dusted fingers from the play kitchen at the park. Nathan looked at Destiny questioningly. They'd been meeting in public spaces, but cooking would require a kitchen. "You could come to our house," Destiny said carefully. "If you're comfortable with that. It's not fancy, but it's home." Nathan's heart leaped at the invitation. Seeing where his children lived, where they played and slept and felt safe, felt like crossing an important threshold. The following Saturday, Nathan pulled up outside a charming two-story house in a family-friendly neighborhood in Culver City. The front yard had a swing set and sandbox, and he could see colorful drawings taped to the windows that must have been Chloe's artwork. Destiny opened the door wearing jeans and an apron, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger and more relaxed than he'd seen her since their reunion. "Welcome to our chaos," she said with a smile, stepping aside to let him in. The house was everything Nathan's mansion wasn't: warm, lived in, and bursting with evidence of happy children. Toys were neatly organized in colorful bins, family photos covered the refrigerator, and the walls displayed a rotating gallery of Chloe's latest artistic endeavors. "Mr. Nathan." Chloe raced down the hallway in tiny bare feet, launching herself into his arms for a hug that made his heart sing. "Hey, princess," Nathan said, spinning her around until she giggled. The endearment had slipped out naturally, and Nathan was relieved when Destiny didn't object. Caleb and Cameron appeared next, both wearing matching aprons that were too big for their small frames. "We're going to make cookies," Caleb announced importantly. "Mama said you could help if you know how to measure flour." "I think I can handle that," Nathan said, accepting the child-sized apron Destiny handed him with an amused expression. The next 2 hours were controlled chaos as Nathan learned that cooking with toddlers was less about creating perfect food and more about making memories. Flour ended up on every surface, including in Cameron's hair and on Nathan's expensive jeans. Chloe insisted on tasting every ingredient separately, and Caleb appointed himself head quality control officer. "You're a natural at this," Destiny observed as Nathan patiently helped Cameron measure sugar, letting the little boy do most of the work even when it took 3 times longer. "It's easier than running a board meeting," Nathan replied, then stopped, surprised by his own words. 6 months ago he would never have imagined saying that anything was easier than business. "Different skill set," Destiny said diplomatically, but Nathan caught the approval in her voice. While the cookies baked, Nathan found himself giving impromptu piggyback rides around the living room, reading storybooks with silly voices that made all 3 children collapse in giggles, and helping Caleb build an elaborate train track that took up most of the family room floor. "Time for baths," Destiny announced when the cookies were cool enough to eat. "Can Mr. Nathan help?" Chloe asked hopefully. Nathan looked at Destiny, unsure of the boundaries. Bath time seemed like an intimate parenting task that maybe he wasn't ready for. "Maybe next time," Destiny said gently. "Mr. Nathan can read you stories after your baths if he wants to stay that long." "I want to stay," Nathan said immediately. "If that's okay." An hour later, Nathan found himself in the children's shared bedroom, surrounded by 3 freshly bathed toddlers in matching pajamas. The room was a perfect blend of organization and comfort, with 3 cribs that had been converted to toddler beds, a bookshelf full of picture books, and soft nightlights that cast gentle shadows on the walls. "What story should we read?" Nathan asked, settling into the rocking chair that Destiny had indicated was the designated reading spot. "The dragon one," Caleb called out, already snuggled under his dinosaur-themed comforter. "No, the princess one," Chloe countered from her bed decorated with pink and purple butterflies. "The truck book," Cameron said quietly from his transportation-themed bed. Nathan looked at the 3 different books they'd handed him and made an executive decision. How about I tell you a story instead? A made-up story about brave knight Caleb, smart engineer Cameron and artistic princess Chloe who go on an adventure together. The children's eyes lit up with excitement as Nathan began weaving a tale about 3 siblings who used their unique talents to help their magical kingdom. Caleb's bravery saved the day when they encountered a friendly but lost dragon. Cameron's problem-solving skills helped them build a bridge across a rushing river. And Chloe's artistic talents provided the map that led them to a treasure that helped their whole kingdom. By the time Nathan finished the story, all 3 children were drowsy and content, their small faces peaceful in the soft lamplight. Will you tell us another story next time? Cameron asked sleepily. As many stories as you want, Nathan promised, his voice thick with emotion. One by one, Nathan kissed each child goodnight, his heart full to overflowing as they accepted his affection without question. Chloe reached up and patted his cheek with her tiny hand. I love you, Mr. Nathan, she whispered, the words so natural and innocent that Nathan had to blink back tears. I love you too, princess, he whispered back, meaning it with every fiber of his being. Downstairs, Nathan helped Destiny clean up the cookie-making mess, working together in comfortable silence. The domesticity of it felt right in a way that made Nathan's chest ache with possibilities he didn't dare voice. They love you, Destiny said softly as they finished putting away the last of the measuring cups. I love them too, Nathan replied. More than I knew was possible. Destiny studied his face in the warm kitchen light, and Nathan could see her evaluating, deciding something important. Nathan, she said carefully, I think it's time we talked about a more regular schedule. If you're serious about this, if you really want to be their father, they need consistency. Saturday visits are nice, but children need routine, need to know when they'll see you again. Nathan's heart raced with hope and terror. What are you suggesting? 2 evenings a week for dinner and 1 full weekend day, Destiny said. A real custody schedule. But Nathan, if we do this, there's no backing out. These kids will start depending on you being here. They'll start thinking of you as daddy, not just Mr. Nathan. Are you ready for that responsibility? Nathan thought about his empty mansion, his sterile office, his life built around profit margins and stock prices. Then he thought about Chloe's tiny arms around his neck, Caleb's proud smile when he showed Nathan his block castle, and Cameron's thoughtful questions about how everything worked. I'm ready, Nathan said, and for the first time in his life, he meant something more than he'd ever meant anything before. Okay, Destiny said, and the word felt like a door opening to a future Nathan had never dared to dream. Let's try it. The first official custody evening was a Tuesday, and Nathan arrived at Destiny's house at 5 p.m. sharp, armed with groceries and a nervous excitement that made him feel like a teenager on a first date. Destiny had given him a list of the children's dinner preferences, and Nathan had spent his lunch break at the grocery store, carefully selecting everything she'd specified. Mr. Nathan. Chloe's voice rang out as she spotted him through the front window, her face pressed against the glass with excitement. Nathan was barely through the front door before all 3 children surrounded him, chattering about their day at daycare and showing him various treasures they'd created or found. The overwhelming welcome made Nathan's chest tight with emotions he was still learning to navigate. How was everyone's day? Nathan asked, setting down the grocery bags and giving each child the attention they were seeking. I painted a flower, Chloe announced, dragging Nathan to the refrigerator where her latest masterpiece was displayed with a prominent magnet. Cameron built the tallest block tower in the whole class, Caleb reported proudly about his brother's achievement. It fell down though, Cameron added matter-of-factly, not seeming bothered by this development. Nathan found himself genuinely interested in every detail of their small adventures, asking follow-up questions and listening to their animated responses with the focus he'd once reserved for board presentations. What's for dinner? Caleb asked, peeking into the grocery bags with curiosity. Spaghetti and meatballs, Nathan announced, with garlic bread and a salad. I don't like salad, Cameron informed him seriously. That's okay, Nathan replied, remembering Destiny's advice about not turning meals into battles. You can try one bite and if you don't like it, you can have extra bread instead. Destiny appeared from the home office where she'd been working, looking pleasantly surprised. You're cooking tonight? I figured I should start learning, Nathan said, already feeling more confident in the kitchen than he'd expected. The kids can help me, right? The next hour was a delightful chaos of small hands helping measure ingredients, tiny voices asking endless questions about why onions made people cry, and Nathan discovering that cooking with children was actually more fun than cooking alone. Chloe appointed herself head taste tester, Caleb took charge of stirring, and Cameron carefully counted out meatballs to make sure everyone got exactly the same amount. "Mr. Nathan," Chloe said as she stood on a step stool beside him, "are you going to eat dinner with us every night now?" The innocent question made Nathan's heart skip. "Not every night, princess, but some nights. Would you like that?" "Yes." All three children chorused without hesitation. Nathan glanced at Destiny, who was watching the scene with an expression he couldn't quite read. She'd been supportive but cautious, evaluating his every interaction with the children. Nathan couldn't blame her. She was protecting their hearts, and his track record didn't inspire confidence. Dinner was a revelation. Nathan had forgotten how much he enjoyed conversation that wasn't about profit margins or market strategies. Instead, he found himself discussing why giraffes had long necks, whether dinosaurs would like pizza, and listening to detailed explanations of the complex social dynamics of 3-year-old daycare politics. "After dinner, can we show Mr. Nathan our fort?" Caleb asked, bouncing in his booster seat with excitement. "If he wants to see it," Destiny said, smiling at Nathan's obvious curiosity. The fort turned out to be an elaborate construction of couch cushions, blankets and kitchen chairs set up in the living room. Nathan had to crawl on his hands and knees to fit inside, which sent all three children into fits of giggles. "This is where we read stories and have snacks," Cameron explained seriously, showing Nathan the carefully arranged pillows and small basket of books. "And this is where we keep the flashlight for when it gets dark," Chloe added, demonstrating the switch with obvious pride. Nathan spent the next half hour squeezed into the small space, reading stories by flashlight and listening to the children's elaborate plans for fort improvements. The cramped quarters should have been uncomfortable for a man used to spacious offices and luxury cars, but Nathan found himself completely content. "Bath time," Destiny announced eventually, and Nathan prepared to say goodbye. "Can Mr. Nathan help with baths tonight?" Chloe asked hopefully. Nathan looked at Destiny questioningly. Bath time still felt like crossing a line into more intimate parenting territory. "If he wants to," Destiny said carefully. "It's mostly just supervising and making sure no one drowns in 3 inches of water." Nathan found himself in the bathroom, sleeves rolled up, helping 3 giggling children navigate the evening routine. Chloe needed help washing her thick curls, Caleb insisted on organizing all the bath toys by color, and Cameron wanted to conduct scientific experiments with floating and sinking objects. "You're getting better at this," Destiny observed, leaning against the doorframe as Nathan patiently helped Cameron test whether different soap bottles would float. "It's easier than I expected," Nathan admitted. "More fun too. Just wait until someone has a meltdown because their favorite pajamas are in the wash," Destiny warned with a smile. "Parenting isn't always this peaceful." As if summoned by her words, Chloe discovered that her beloved butterfly pajamas were indeed in the laundry basket, leading to tears that seemed disproportionate to the crisis but were clearly devastating to a 3-year-old. Nathan watched as Destiny handled the situation with practiced patience, offering alternative pajama options and gentle comfort until Chloe settled on her second favorite set with pink unicorns. The whole incident lasted less than 5 minutes, but Nathan was impressed by how calmly Destiny managed what could have escalated into a major tantrum. "You make that look easy," Nathan said as they got the children settled in their beds. "Practice," Destiny replied. And accepting that toddler logic isn't always logical. Story time had become Nathan's favorite part of the evening routine. Tonight he told another adventure tale featuring brave knight Caleb, brilliant engineer Cameron and magical artist Chloe, watching their faces light up as he wove their personalities into heroic adventures. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Cameron asked as Nathan tucked him in. "Not tomorrow, buddy, but Thursday. That's just 2 days away." "Can you count to Thursday?" Caleb asked. Nathan helped them count the days, using their fingers to make the concept more concrete. "Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday," they chorused together. "I'll miss you," Chloe said simply, wrapping her small arms around Nathan's neck. The words hit Nathan like a physical force. This tiny person would miss him. His absence would be noticed, felt, regretted. The responsibility was overwhelming and wonderful at the same time. "I'll miss you too, princess," Nathan whispered back. "All of you." Downstairs, Nathan helped clean up the dinner dishes and put away toys, falling into a domestic routine that felt surprisingly natural. "How are you feeling about all this?" Destiny asked as they worked side by side. "Terrified," Nathan admitted honestly. "And happier than I've been in years. They're incredible, Destiny. You've done such a beautiful job raising them." "They're good kids," Destiny agreed. "And they're clearly crazy about you. I wasn't sure how they'd adjust to having someone new in their routine, but they've taken to you like you've always been here. Nathan felt a warmth spread through his chest at her words. Does that mean I'm doing okay? As a father? Destiny paused in loading the dishwasher, considering her answer carefully. You're doing better than okay, Nathan. You're present, you're patient, you pay attention to what they need. Those are the most important things. But Nathan sensed there was more. But this is still the honeymoon phase, Destiny said gently. Right now you're exciting and new. Wait until the novelty wears off, until they're sick and cranky, until you've read the same story 15 times in a row because Chloe insists on it. That's when we'll see how committed you really are. Nathan nodded, understanding her caution. I want to be here for all of it. The good days and the hard days. I want to be their father, not just a fun visitor who shows up twice a week. Destiny studied his face in the soft kitchen light, and Nathan could see her evaluating his sincerity. Finally she nodded. Okay, she said. Let's see how the next few weeks go. If this continues to work well for everyone, we can talk about expanding the schedule. As Nathan drove home that night, he realized his definition of success had completely changed. Instead of thinking about quarterly reports and profit margins, he was planning Thursday's dinner menu and wondering what stories the children would want to hear. His empty mansion felt even more hollow than usual, and for the first time, Nathan began to wonder if it was time to think about a different kind of home. A home where 3 small voices would call him daddy, where toys scattered across the floor were signs of life rather than mess, where bedtime stories and goodnight kisses were the most important meetings of his day. Nathan Brooks was discovering that the best investment he'd ever made wasn't in technology or real estate. Was in love. 6 weeks into their new routine, Nathan had settled into fatherhood with a natural ease that surprised everyone, including himself. Tuesday and Thursday dinners had become the highlight of his week, and his Saturday adventures with the children had evolved from playground visits to elaborate outings that always ended back at Destiny's house for dinner and stories. Nathan's business associates had begun to notice changes in their formerly workaholic CEO. Conference calls that used to run until midnight now ended promptly at 5 p.m. on his custody days. Business trips were scheduled around his time with the children, and Nathan had shocked his assistant by declining a lucrative merger meeting because it conflicted with Chloe's first dance recital. The children have you wrapped around their little fingers, Destiny observed one Thursday evening as Nathan sat on the living room floor, serving tea to an assortment of stuffed animals while Chloe directed the elaborate tea party with the seriousness of a diplomatic summit. Completely, Nathan agreed, adjusting the tiny plastic tiara Chloe had insisted he wear. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Caleb looked up from where he was building an elaborate cityscape with his blocks. Mr. Nathan, when are you going to be our real daddy? The innocent question stopped all conversation in the room. Nathan felt his heart skip as he looked at Destiny, whose expression had become carefully neutral. What do you mean, sweetheart? Destiny asked her son gently. Tommy at daycare says his daddy lives at his house all the time, Caleb explained matter-of-factly. How come Mr. Nathan doesn't live here all the time too? Cameron looked up from his puzzle. Yeah, and Katie's daddy picks her up from school every day. How come you always pick us up, Mama? Nathan felt the weight of their questions settle over him like a heavy blanket. These children were starting to see him as their father, were beginning to expect the consistency and presence that came with that role. The responsibility was both thrilling and terrifying. Well, Destiny said carefully, Mr. Nathan has his own house where he lives. Just like how some of your friends' parents live in different houses but still love their children very much. But we want him to live here, Chloe said simply, climbing into Nathan's lap and adjusting his tiara with small, determined fingers. Nathan met Destiny's eyes over Chloe's head, seeing his own emotions reflected there. They'd been carefully navigating co-parenting, but the children were pushing them toward questions neither of them was prepared to answer. Can we talk about this later? Destiny suggested gently to the children. Right now it's almost bedtime. The usual bedtime routine proceeded smoothly, but Nathan could feel the unspoken tension in the air. After the children were asleep, he and Destiny found themselves in the kitchen, the weight of their children's questions hanging between them. They're getting attached, Destiny said quietly, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. Is that a bad thing? Nathan asked, though he thought he knew what she was going to say. It's complicated, Destiny replied. They're starting to think of you as a full-time father, but we haven't talked about what that actually means. What happens when they start expecting you at school events, or when they want you to tuck them in every night, or when other kids ask why their daddy doesn't live with them? Nathan had been thinking about the same questions. The twice-weekly custody schedule that had seemed perfect 6 weeks ago now felt inadequate. He wanted to be there for bedtime stories every night, wanted to help with breakfast routines, wanted to be the father who attended every school event and kissed scraped knees and knew every detail of their daily lives. What if we changed the arrangement? Nathan asked carefully. What if I could be here more often? Destiny's hands tightened around her mug. Nathan, we've talked about this. Co-parenting doesn't mean we get back together. I can't risk my heart or the children's stability on the possibility that you might want to play house for a while. It's not playing house, Nathan said urgently. Destiny, these past 6 weeks have been the best of my life. I wake up every morning thinking about Caleb's latest building project and whether Cameron has figured out how that toy robot works and what new picture Chloe is going to show me. They're not just part of my schedule anymore, they're the reason I have a schedule. Destiny looked at him with eyes that held 3 years of hurt and caution. And what happens when the business pressures mount again? What happens when you get that deal offer you can't refuse, or when being a full-time father starts interfering with the empire you built? Nathan understood her fears, knew that his past behavior had earned every bit of her skepticism. But something fundamental had shifted in him over these weeks with the children. Success no longer measured itself in dollars and deals, but in bedtime hugs and proud smiles when he successfully braided Chloe's hair. I've been thinking about that, Nathan said slowly. About the business, about what really matters. Destiny, I want to make you an offer. A business proposition. Destiny raised an eyebrow. I'm listening. Your catering company is amazing, but I know you've been wanting to expand. You've mentioned opening a second location, maybe franchising the concept. What if we became business partners? I invest in your expansion, you get the capital you need to grow, and I get to be involved in something that actually makes people happy instead of just making money? Nathan. Destiny's voice held a warning note. Hear me out, Nathan continued. This isn't about us, it's about the kids. If we're business partners, I have legitimate reasons to be in Los Angeles full-time instead of traveling constantly. I can move my company's headquarters here, work more regular hours, be the kind of father they deserve. Destiny was quiet for a long moment, considering his proposal. And what happens to your tech company? I hire a strong management team and step back from day-to-day operations. I'll still be involved but not consumed. Destiny, building that company was about proving something to myself, about showing the world I could succeed. But now I know what success actually looks like, and it's Chloe falling asleep in my lap while I read her stories. It's Caleb trusting me to catch him when he jumps off the monkey bars. It's Cameron asking me endless questions because he knows I'll always try to find the answers. Destiny studied his face in the soft kitchen light, and Nathan could see her weighing his words against his past actions. You're talking about completely changing your life, she said finally. I'm talking about finally getting my priorities right, Nathan corrected. The tech company will always be there, but our children are only going to be this age once. I've already missed 2.5 years of their lives. I don't want to miss any more because I was too stubborn to admit that being their father is more important than being a billionaire. Destiny set down her mug and leaned back in her chair, studying Nathan with the calculating look he remembered from their marriage when she was working through a complex problem. What exactly are you proposing? She asked. In concrete terms. Nathan pulled out his phone and opened the Notes app where he'd been sketching out ideas for weeks. I invest $2 million in Sweet Destiny Catering for a 30% stake. That gives you the capital to open locations in San Francisco and San Diego like you've been planning. I provide business expertise and connections, you maintain creative control and day-to-day operations. And in exchange? I relocate permanently to Los Angeles. I buy a house in this neighborhood so I can be close to the kids. We establish a real custody schedule, maybe 50-50, or whatever works best for them. I become a real father, not just a weekend visitor. Destiny was quiet for several minutes, and Nathan could practically hear her thinking through all the implications. What about us? She asked finally. This proposal would mean seeing each other constantly, working together, co-parenting together. We have history, Nathan. Complicated, painful history. I know, Nathan said softly. And I'm not asking you to forgive me or trust me with your heart again. I'm asking you to trust me with our children's future. To give me the chance to prove that I can be the father they need and the business partner you deserve. And if it doesn't work out? If old patterns resurface? Nathan had thought about this extensively. Then we dissolve the business partnership professionally, and we figure out a custody arrangement that protects the kids. But Destiny, I'm not the same man who let you walk away 3 years ago. Those children changed me in ways I didn't know were possible. Destiny stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the backyard where the children's swing set was barely visible in the darkness. They love you, she said quietly. Really love you. Caleb talks about you constantly at daycare. Cameron saves up questions all week to ask you. And Chloe. She drew a picture yesterday of our family, and she included you without me even mentioning it. Nathan's chest tightened at the image of his daughter, including him in her concept of family. I love them too, he said. More than I ever thought possible. I can see that, Destiny replied, turning back to face him. The way you are with them, the patience you show, how you listen to their endless chatter like it's the most important conversation you've ever had. You're a good father, Nathan. The words meant more to Nathan than any business award or recognition he'd ever received. Does that mean you'll consider the partnership? He asked hopefully. Destiny returned to her seat, her expression thoughtful. I'll need to see a formal proposal. Numbers, timelines, legal structure. And Nathan, if we do this, there have to be clear boundaries. This is about the children and the business, not about us trying to recapture what we had. Understood, Nathan said, though part of him wondered if spending so much time with Destiny might naturally lead to something more. He pushed that thought away right now. His children were the priority. I'll have my lawyers draw up a proposal by Friday, Nathan promised. Full financial projections, expansion timeline, everything you need to make an informed decision. And I want time to think about it, Destiny said. This is a big decision that affects not just me but the children too. Of course. Take all the time you need. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, both lost in thought about the possibilities and complications of Nathan's proposal. Can I ask you something? Destiny said eventually. Anything. What happens if you meet someone? If you want to get married again someday? How does a new wife fit into this arrangement of us working together and co-parenting? The question caught Nathan off guard. He honestly hadn't thought about dating anyone else, hadn't even considered the possibility. His entire emotional bandwidth was focused on his children and, if he was honest, on the complicated feelings he still had for Destiny. I don't know, he admitted. I suppose we'd figure it out when the time comes. But right now, I can't imagine wanting to be with anyone else when I'm still trying to prove I can be the father Caleb, Cameron, and Chloe deserve. Destiny nodded, seeming satisfied with his honesty. One more thing, she said. If we do this business partnership, you need to understand that success looks different in the food industry. It's not about dominating markets or crushing competitors. It's about creating experiences that bring families together, about being part of people's celebrations and important moments. Can you handle building something that's about community instead of conquest? Nathan smiled, thinking about the joy on his children's faces when they helped him cook dinner, about the satisfaction of creating something together instead of just acquiring what others had built. I think I'm ready for a different kind of success, he said. One that measures profit in smiles and growth in relationships. Destiny studied his face one more time, then nodded slowly. Okay. Send me the proposal. Let's see if we can build something good together. As Nathan drove home that night, he felt an excitement he hadn't experienced since his first major business deal. But this time the stakes were personal. He wasn't just trying to build a company, he was trying to build a life where he could be the father his children needed and maybe, eventually, prove to Destiny that he was worth a second chance at love too. The next morning, Nathan canceled all his meetings and spent the day working with his lawyers and accountants to create the most important business proposal of his life. Not because of the money involved but because it was his pathway to the family he'd finally learned to value above everything else. 3 months after Destiny accepted Nathan's business partnership proposal, their lives had settled into a rhythm that felt both natural and miraculous. Nathan had purchased a beautiful 4-bedroom house just 6 blocks away from Destiny's home, close enough for the children to ride their bikes between houses but far enough to maintain healthy boundaries. The business partnership was thriving beyond either of their expectations. Sweet Destiny Catering had opened its San Francisco location to rave reviews, and the San Diego expansion was ahead of schedule. Nathan's business acumen combined with Destiny's creative vision had created something special, a company that truly brought families together while turning a healthy profit. More importantly, Nathan had proven himself as a father. He was there for school pickups, doctor's appointments, and the 1,000 small moments that make up a child's life. The children had adjusted to their new routine with the resilience of youth, moving seamlessly between Mama's house and Daddy's house without confusion or distress. Nathan's transformation was complete. His tech company now practically ran itself under competent management, freeing him to focus on what truly mattered. His Beverly Hills mansion had been sold, replaced by a warm, child-friendly home where toys scattered across hardwood floors and artwork decorated the refrigerator. "Daddy, can we have a picnic today?" Chloe asked one sunny Saturday morning as Nathan helped her tie her shoes. The transition from Mr. Nathan to Daddy had happened gradually over the past month, and Nathan still felt his heart skip every time he heard it. "That sounds perfect, Princess," Nathan replied, double knotting her sneakers with practiced ease. "Should we invite Mama?" "Yes." All three children chorused from where they were gathering picnic supplies in Nathan's kitchen. Nathan called Destiny, who agreed to meet them at their favorite park with homemade sandwiches and fresh fruit. As he watched his children's excitement over this simple family outing, Nathan felt a contentment he'd never known was possible. The picnic was perfect in the way only family gatherings can be. They spread blankets under a large oak tree, and the children ran between Nathan and Destiny with the unconscious assumption that both parents would always be there to catch them, comfort them, and share in their joy. "Cameron learned to spell his whole name this week," Destiny told Nathan as they watched their son carefully arrange his sandwich into perfect squares. "That's amazing, buddy," Nathan said, ruffling Cameron's hair. "Can you show me?" Cameron proudly spelled out Cameron with crackers, beaming at his parents' praise. "And Caleb has been asking when we can go camping," Destiny continued. "Apparently, several kids in his class went camping with their families, and now he's convinced it's the best adventure ever." "Can we, Daddy?" Caleb asked hopefully. "Can we sleep in a tent and cook marshmallows on a fire?" Nathan's heart clenched at his son's eager face. 6 months ago, he wouldn't have known how to begin planning a camping trip. Now he was already mentally researching family-friendly campgrounds and age-appropriate hiking trails. "I think that sounds like a wonderful adventure," Nathan said. "What do you think, Mama? Should we plan a family camping trip?" The word family slipped out naturally, and Nathan saw Destiny's expression flicker with something he couldn't quite read. Over the past 3 months, they'd become an effective co-parenting team, but they'd been careful to maintain boundaries about their personal relationship. "I think the kids would love that," Destiny said carefully. "We could look into some state parks with easy trails." "And ghost stories," Chloe added excitedly. "Daddy tells the best stories." As the afternoon wore on, Nathan found himself studying Destiny with new eyes. Motherhood had made her even more beautiful, adding depth and strength to features that had always taken his breath away. The way she laughed at their children's silly jokes, the patience she showed when Cameron needed help tying his shoes for the 3rd time, the gentle way she redirected Chloe's energy when the little girl got overstimulated, everything about her made Nathan fall in love all over again. "Daddy, will you push me on the swings?" Caleb asked, tugging on Nathan's hand. "Of course," Nathan replied, allowing himself to be led to the playground equipment. As Nathan pushed his children on swings and helped them navigate the monkey bars, he caught Destiny watching him with an expression he'd seen before but couldn't quite identify. There was fondness there and pride, but also something that looked like longing. "You've become an amazing father," Destiny said quietly as they walked back to their picnic blanket, the children running ahead to collect interesting rocks and leaves. "I had a good teacher," Nathan replied, meaning it completely. "Watching you with them, seeing how patient and creative and loving you are, you taught me what parenting actually looks like." Destiny ducked her head, but Nathan caught her small smile. "You give yourself too little credit. The way you are with them comes naturally. You just needed the chance to discover it." They were packing up the picnic supplies when Chloe made an announcement that stopped both parents in their tracks. "Sarah at school says her parents are getting married again next month," Chloe said matter-of-factly as she carefully placed her collection of pretty rocks in a small bag. "She gets to wear a fancy dress and throw flowers." "That sounds lovely for Sarah," Destiny said carefully. "Are you and Daddy going to get married?" Cameron asked with the directness that only children possess. Nathan felt his breath catch. This wasn't a conversation he'd expected to have during a casual picnic, but his children's innocent questions had a way of cutting straight to the heart of things adults preferred to avoid. "Well," Destiny began, clearly searching for an age-appropriate explanation of their complicated situation. "Mama and Daddy aren't married right now," Nathan said gently. "But we both love you very much and we're a family whether we're married or not." "But wouldn't it be better if you were married?" Caleb asked with the logic of a 3-year-old. "Then we could all live in the same house all the time." Nathan looked at Destiny over their children's heads, seeing his own emotions reflected in her eyes. The children's questions were forcing them to confront feelings they'd been carefully avoiding for months. "Marriage is complicated, sweetheart," Destiny said softly. "It's not just about living in the same house. But do you love each other?" Chloe asked with devastating innocence. The question hung in the air between Nathan and Destiny, laden with 3 years of history and months of careful co-parenting boundaries. Nathan felt his heart pounding as he waited for Destiny's response. "Your daddy and I care about each other very much," Destiny said finally. We'll always be connected because we both love you three more than anything in the world. It wasn't exactly an answer, but it was honest, and the children seemed satisfied for the moment. As they finished packing and headed to their respective cars, Nathan couldn't stop thinking about his children's questions and the look in Destiny's eyes when they'd asked about love. That evening, after he'd tucked the children into bed at his house and read them their requested story about brave knights and clever princesses, Nathan found himself unable to sleep. His children's innocent questions had crystallized feelings he'd been developing for months but hadn't dared to acknowledge. He was still in love with Destiny. Probably had never stopped loving her if he was honest. Working together, parenting together, watching her strength and grace and incredible capacity for love, it had all combined to make him realize that his feelings went far beyond co-parenting respect. The question was whether Destiny felt the same way, and whether he had any right to hope for a second chance at the love he'd thrown away 3 years ago. Nathan spent the weekend wrestling with his feelings, trying to decide whether to keep his emotions to himself or risk everything by telling Destiny how he felt. The answer came Monday morning when Chloe climbed into his lap during breakfast and asked a question that changed everything. "Daddy, do you think Mama is sad sometimes?" "What makes you ask that, princess?" "Sometimes I see her looking at pictures on her phone and she gets that face like when we watch sad movies," Chloe explained with the perceptiveness that often surprised Nathan. Nathan's heart clenched at the thought of Destiny being sad. "What kind of pictures?" "Pictures of all of us together," Chloe said simply. "From the picnic and when we cooked dinner and when we went to the zoo." She smiles when she looks at them, but it's a sad, happy smile. That evening, Nathan made a decision that terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. It was time to stop hiding behind co-parenting boundaries and business partnerships. It was time to fight for the family he wanted, the love he'd lost, and the future he'd finally learned to value above everything else. Nathan Brooks was going to ask Destiny Williams to marry him again. And this time he was going to do it right. Nathan spent 2 weeks planning the most important conversation of his life. Unlike his first proposal 3 years into their marriage, which had been a spur-of-the-moment decision in an expensive restaurant, this proposal would be thoughtful, personal, and include the 3 people who mattered most: their children. He started by talking to Caleb, Cameron, and Chloe individually during his custody time, carefully gauging their feelings about the possibility of their parents getting married. "Would you like it if Mama and Daddy got married and we all lived together?" Nathan asked Caleb during a quiet moment while they built with blocks. Caleb's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Yes. Then you could read us stories every night and Mama could make pancakes, and we wouldn't have to pack bags to go between houses." Cameron's response was more thoughtful. "If you and Mama get married, will you still be our daddy if you have fights?" The question broke Nathan's heart with its wisdom. Their 3-year-old son was already thinking about permanence and security in ways that showed how much he'd matured. "Cameron, no matter what happens between Mama and me, I will always be your daddy," Nathan promised solemnly. "Always. That will never change, even if we disagree about things sometimes." Chloe's reaction was pure joy. "Can I wear a pretty dress? Can I throw flowers like Sarah did at her parents' wedding? If Mama says yes to marrying me, you can wear the prettiest dress in the world and throw all the flowers you want," Nathan promised, his heart full of hope and terror. With his children's blessing secured, Nathan began planning a proposal that would be meaningful to both Destiny and their family. He enlisted the help of Destiny's sister Rachel, who flew in from Atlanta under the pretense of a regular visit. "You better not hurt her again," Rachel warned Nathan during a private conversation while Destiny was at work and the children were napping. "She's built a beautiful life for herself and those kids. If you're not absolutely certain about this, walk away now." "I'm certain," Nathan said without hesitation. "I love her, Rachel. I love our family. I know I messed up before, but I'm not the same man who let her walk away." Rachel studied him with the protective scrutiny only a sister could muster. "What's different this time?" "Everything," Nathan replied honestly. 3 years ago, I thought success meant building the biggest company and making the most money. Now I know success means Chloe falling asleep in my arms after I read her a story. It means Caleb trusting me to catch him when he jumps off playground equipment. It means Cameron asking me endless questions because he knows I'll always try to find the answers. And it means wanting to wake up every morning next to the woman who taught me what love actually looks like." Rachel's stern expression softened slightly. "She still loves you, you know. She tries to hide it, but I can see it in the way she lights up when she talks about your co-parenting success, how proud she is of the father you've become." "Then you'll help me?" Nathan asked hopefully. "I'll help you," Rachel agreed. "But if you hurt her again, I'll personally make sure you regret it." The plan they developed was simple but meaningful. Nathan would invite Destiny to their favorite family park for what she thought was a regular weekend picnic. Rachel would bring the children separately, giving Nathan a few minutes alone with Destiny before the proposal. On the chosen Saturday, Nathan arrived at the park early to set up a more elaborate picnic than usual. He'd brought Destiny's favorite foods, flowers from the garden they'd planted together during their marriage, and a playlist of songs that had been meaningful during their courtship. "This is fancy for a regular picnic," Destiny observed when she arrived, taking in the beautiful spread Nathan had arranged under their favorite oak tree. "I wanted today to be special," Nathan said, his heart already pounding with nervous anticipation. They settled on the blanket, and Nathan found himself memorizing every detail of this moment, the way the afternoon sunlight caught the highlights in Destiny's hair, the comfortable way she tucked her legs under her, the small smile she wore when she was truly content. "Nathan, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about," Destiny said, picking at the edge of the picnic blanket. Nathan's heart skipped. "What's that?" "These past few months, working together and co-parenting together, it's been wonderful. Better than I ever imagined it could be. You've become such an incredible father, and seeing you with the kids." She trailed off, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Go on," Nathan encouraged gently. "I've been thinking about us," Destiny admitted, not meeting his eyes. "Not just as co-parents or business partners, but as us. And I know we agreed to keep things focused on the children, but I can't help wondering what might happen if we tried again. If we've both grown enough to make it work this time." Nathan felt his breath catch. Destiny was opening the door he'd been afraid to approach, giving him the perfect opportunity to share his own feelings. "Destiny," Nathan said softly, reaching out to take her hand. "I've been thinking about the same thing. Actually, I've been thinking about it constantly." She looked up at him then, her dark eyes vulnerable and hopeful. "I'm still in love with you," Nathan continued, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "I probably never stopped loving you, even when I was too stubborn and proud to admit it. These months of seeing you every day, watching you be an amazing mother and business partner, remembering all the reasons I fell for you in the first place, it's made me realize that losing you was the biggest mistake of my life." Tears started forming in Destiny's eyes. "Nathan. I know I don't deserve a second chance," Nathan rushed on. "I know my track record doesn't inspire confidence. But I'm not the same man who chose work over love, who was too blind to see what really mattered. Our children changed me, but you taught me how to change." Before Destiny could respond, Nathan heard the sound of small feet running across the grass. He looked up to see Caleb, Cameron, and Chloe racing toward them, with Rachel following at a more sedate pace. "Daddy? Mama?" Chloe called out, launching herself into Nathan's arms for a hug that nearly knocked him over. "Are you surprised, Mama?" Caleb asked excitedly, clearly in on whatever plan Nathan had arranged. Destiny looked confused but delighted as all three children settled around them on the picnic blanket, chattering about their morning with Aunt Rachel. "I have something I want to ask all of you," Nathan said, his voice slightly shaky with emotion. "Something very important." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, watching as Destiny's eyes widened with shock and recognition. "Caleb, Cameron, Chloe," Nathan said, addressing his children directly. "You know how much I love being your daddy and how much I love spending time with our family?" Three small heads nodded enthusiastically. "Well, I love your mama too. Very, very much. And I was wondering if you would like it if I asked her to marry me, so we could all be together all the time." "Yes," Chloe shouted, bouncing on her knees with excitement. "Really?" Caleb asked, his eyes shining. "We could all live in the same house?" "That's right," Nathan confirmed, his heart full to bursting as he watched his children's joy. "What do you think, Cameron?" Nathan asked his quieter son. Cameron considered the question with his usual thoughtfulness. "Will you still read us stories every night?" "Every single night," Nathan promised. "Then yes," Cameron decided with a firm nod. Nathan turned back to Destiny, who was crying openly now, her hands pressed to her mouth in shock. "Destiny Williams," Nathan said, opening the ring box to reveal not the flashy diamond he'd chosen hastily 3 years ago, but a simple, elegant band with 3 small stones representing their children. "You've given me the greatest gifts of my life, our beautiful children, and the chance to learn what real love looks like. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that I can be the husband you deserve and the father our children need?" "Yes," Destiny whispered, then louder, "Yes. Of course yes." The children erupted in cheers as Nathan slipped the ring onto Destiny's finger with trembling hands. Chloe immediately began planning her flower girl dress, while Caleb and Cameron discussed whether they could both be ring bearers. "I love you," Destiny said softly as Nathan pulled her into his arms, their children climbing around them in a group hug that felt like coming home. "I love you too," Nathan replied, kissing her forehead as tears of joy streamed down both their faces. "All of you. More than I ever thought possible." As they sat surrounded by their children's laughter and chatter about wedding plans, Nathan reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. 3 years ago he'd thought he'd lost everything when Destiny walked away. Now he understood that sometimes you have to lose what you think you want to discover what you actually need. He'd built a business empire, but his greatest success was sitting right here in his arms, a woman who'd taught him how to love and 3 children who'd taught him what really mattered. 6 months later, Nathan and Destiny remarried in the backyard of their new home, a beautiful house large enough for their growing family, with a kitchen perfect for Destiny's catering experiments and a home office where Nathan could manage his businesses without sacrificing family time. Chloe was indeed the most beautiful flower girl in the world, wearing a pink dress with sparkles that caught the sunlight as she scattered rose petals down the aisle. Caleb and Cameron shared ring-bearer duties, walking solemnly down the aisle together with matching serious expressions that made the guests smile. The ceremony was small and intimate, attended by close friends and family who had watched Nathan and Destiny's journey from heartbreak to healing to love renewed. Rachel cried happy tears as she watched her sister marry a man who had truly learned to put family first. As Nathan and Destiny exchanged vows they'd written themselves, promising to prioritize love over ambition and family over profit, their children sat in the front row beaming with pride at their parents' happiness. "I promise to love you not just in the easy moments, but especially in the hard ones," Nathan vowed, his voice steady and sure. "I promise to choose our family every day, to be present for every story, every scraped knee, every triumph and challenge that comes our way. I promise to trust in the man you've become and the father you've proven yourself to be," Destiny replied, her voice full of joy and certainty. "I promise to build this beautiful life with you, to create a home filled with laughter and love and the chaos that comes with 3 toddlers who have us wrapped around their little fingers." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, the children cheered louder than anyone, racing forward to be included in their parents' first kiss as a remarried couple. The reception was a celebration of family in all its forms, biological, chosen, and created through love and commitment. Nathan's business associates marveled at his transformation from workaholic billionaire to devoted family man, while Destiny's catering team celebrated their boss's happiness and the expansion of their business family. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Nathan found himself on the back porch, watching Destiny dance with their children to music playing softly from speakers hidden among the garden lights. "No regrets?" Rachel asked, joining him on the porch with 2 glasses of champagne. "About what?" Nathan asked, accepting the glass but not taking his eyes off his family. "Giving up the empire builder lifestyle. The constant travel, the big deals, the adrenaline rush of corporate conquest." Nathan considered the question seriously, then shook his head. "The only regret I have is that it took me so long to figure out what actually mattered. I spent years building something that made me money but never made me happy. Now I wake up every morning to children who think I hung the moon and a wife who makes me want to be better than I ever thought I could be." "And the business? Sweet Destiny Catering?" Nathan smiled, watching as Chloe convinced Cameron to twirl her around in an impromptu dance move. "Is more successful than ever, and it feeds my soul in a way tech acquisitions never did. We're creating something that brings families together, that's part of people's most important celebrations. It's profitable and meaningful, the best of both worlds." Rachel clinked her glass against his. "To second chances and the wisdom to recognize what's worth fighting for." "To family," Nathan replied, raising his glass toward the woman and children who had taught him the true meaning of success. Later that night, after the children had been tucked into their beds in their new shared home, Nathan and Destiny sat together on their bedroom balcony, watching the stars and marveling at how far they'd come. "Are you happy?" Nathan asked, pulling Destiny closer against his side. "Completely," Destiny replied without hesitation. "This is everything I dreamed our life could be when I first fell in love with you. The difference is now you're here for all of it, not just the easy parts, but the real parts too." "I'm here for all of it," Nathan promised, kissing the top of her head. "The midnight fevers, the toddler tantrums, the teenage years that are definitely going to test our sanity, all of it." "Speaking of all of it," Destiny said with a mischievous smile, "I have something to tell you." Nathan felt his heart skip, recognizing that particular tone in her voice. "What's that?" "I went to the doctor last week for my annual checkup," Destiny said, turning in his arms so she could see his face. And it turns out that our family might be growing sooner than we expected. Nathan's breath caught as he processed her words. Are you saying? I'm saying that Caleb, Cameron, and Chloe are going to be big siblings, Destiny confirmed, her smile radiant in the moonlight. Nathan felt tears spring to his eyes as joy washed over him like a wave. Another child, another chance to be present from the very beginning, to experience every milestone and moment he'd missed with the triplets. How do you feel about that? Destiny asked, studying his face. Like the luckiest man in the world, Nathan replied honestly. Terrified and excited and grateful all at once. They sat in comfortable silence, both contemplating the wonderful chaos that would come with adding a fourth child to their household. Do you think the kids will be excited? Nathan asked. Are you kidding? Chloe has been asking for a baby sister for months. She's going to be over the moon. Nathan laughed, imagining his daughter's reaction to the news. When do we tell them? Soon, Destiny said. Maybe tomorrow, after they've had time to settle into the idea of us being married again. Nathan placed his hand gently on Destiny's still flat stomach, marveling at the life growing there. This time he would be present for every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every moment of preparation for their new addition. I love you, he said softly. All of you. Our whole chaotic, beautiful, perfect family. I love you too, Destiny replied, covering his hand with hers. Welcome home, Nathan Brooks. As they sat together under the stars, surrounded by the quiet sounds of their sleeping children and the promise of new life growing between them, Nathan reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. He'd learned that true success couldn't be measured in dollars or deals, but in bedtime stories and breakfast conversations, in scraped knees kissed better and dreams shared over ice cream. Nathan Brooks had finally built something that mattered, not an empire of money and power, but a foundation of love that would last for generations. And as he held his wife close and listened to the peaceful sounds of his family's home, Nathan knew that this was the greatest acquisition of his life.